My daughter borrowed my card for a small bill. By morning, $19,800 was gone from my account. Today, I'm going to tell you something I never thought I would share. And if for even a second this feels familiar, I only ask that you like this video and subscribe. It will help me keep opening my heart. The alarm clock screamed at 5:30 in the morning, same as always. I rolled over in my narrow bed, feeling the familiar ache in my lower back that never quite goes away anymore. The apartment was cold, drafty like every pre-war building in Queens. Through the thin walls, I could hear Mrs. Rodriguez next door already shuffling around her kitchen, the same morning ritual we've both followed for decades. I slipped my feet into those worn pink slippers that have seen better days, the ones my daughter used to tease me about. The kitchen was sparse, just the essentials I could afford on my social security check. The coffee maker gurgled to life as I opened the small pill box that organizes my week. Blood pressure medication. Arthritis pills. The little white tablet for my anxiety that I started taking 3 years ago when everything began falling apart. Outside my window, I could see the early commuters hurrying toward the subway entrance on Northern Boulevard. Yellow cabs honked their way through the morning traffic. The Korean grocery store across the street was just rolling up its metal gates. This neighborhood has changed so much since I moved here 40 years ago, but some rhythms remain the same. I was reaching for my favorite mug when my phone started buzzing on the counter. The screen lit up with notifications. Bank alerts. Text messages. Missed calls from numbers I didn't recognize. My heart started racing before I even understood why. The bank app loaded slowly on my old phone. I squinted at the screen, waiting for the numbers to make sense. My checking account balance stared back at me like a slap across the face. $317. Yesterday it had been $20,117. I sat down hard on the kitchen chair, the same one where I've eaten breakfast alone for the past 8 years. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through the transaction history. Nordstrom, $1,500. Amazon, $800. Some designer handbag website, $2,200. The charges went on, all timestamped between midnight and 4 in the morning while I slept. The last conversation with my daughter echoed in my mind. She had called on Tuesday, her voice sweet and apologetic. "Mom, I just need to borrow your card for a small bill. The electric company is threatening to shut off our power, and David's paycheck doesn't come until Friday. I'll pay you back by the weekend, I promise." I had hesitated. Something in her tone didn't sound right. But she was my daughter, my only child. I had given her everything since the day she was born. When her father left us when she was 12, I worked double shifts at the hospital cafeteria to keep food on the table. I cleaned office buildings at night to pay for her school clothes. I never said no to her needs, even when saying yes meant I went without. "Of course, sweetheart," I had told her. "I'll drop the card off tomorrow." The next morning, I had driven to her house in Bayside, a neighborhood I could never afford to live in myself. She met me at the door, looking rushed and distracted. Her hair was perfectly styled, her nails freshly done. She wore a jacket I'd never seen before, something expensive looking. "Thanks, Mom. You're a lifesaver. I'll have it back to you by Sunday, I swear." She barely looked at me when she took the card. No hug. No invitation to come inside. The door closed before I could even say goodbye. Now, sitting in my kitchen with my entire savings wiped out, I understood what had really happened. The electric bill story was a lie. She had planned this. While I slept, trusting and peaceful in my bed, my own daughter was draining every penny I had saved for my future. I called the bank first. The customer service representative sounded bored, like she dealt with this kind of theft every day. "Ma'am, you'll need to file a police report if you want to dispute these charges. Since you gave the card to a family member willingly, it's going to be complicated." A police report. Against my own daughter. I hung up and stared at the photo on my refrigerator. It was from last Christmas, the only time she had visited me that whole year. We were standing in front of my small Christmas tree, both trying to smile for David's camera. She looked impatient even then, checking her phone while her arm lay stiffly across my shoulders. The tears came without warning. Deep, wrenching sobs that seemed to come from somewhere I didn't know still existed inside me. I had given this woman life, raised her alone through every scraped knee and broken heart, worked myself into exhaustion to give her opportunities one never had. And this was how she repaid me. I tried calling her, but the phone went straight to voicemail. Her voice sounded cheerful and carefree in the recording. "Hi, you've reached Jessica. Leave me a message and I'll get back to you soon. Jessica, it's Mom. I need you to call me right away. There's been a problem with my bank account." I kept my voice steady, professional. Part of me still hoped there was some mistake, some explanation that would make this all make sense. Hours passed. No return call. I made myself a cup of tea and sat by the window, watching the world go about its business while my life crumbled. A young mother pushed a stroller down the sidewalk, stopping to buy flowers from the vendor on the corner. Two elderly men played checkers on their usual bench outside the deli. Life continued, normal and predictable, while I sat frozen in my own private earthquake. The hardest part wasn't even the money, though losing $20,000 at my age felt like a death sentence. The hardest part was understanding, finally and completely, what I meant to her. I wasn't her mother anymore. I was her ATM machine. Her emergency fund. Her last resort when she needed something her husband's salary couldn't provide. When had it started? When had my loving, laughing little girl transformed into this stranger who could steal from me without a second thought? I remembered teaching her to ride a bike in Flushing Meadows Park. I remembered staying up all night when she had pneumonia in 3rd grade. I remembered crying with joy at her high school graduation, so proud of the woman she was becoming. That woman was gone. Or maybe she had never really existed at all. The sun was setting when my phone finally rang. Jessica's name appeared on the screen, and for a moment, hope fluttered in my chest. Maybe she was calling to explain. Maybe there was some emergency I didn't know about. Maybe my daughter was still in there somewhere. Mom? Her voice sounded stressed, distracted. I got your message. What's going on? Jessica, my bank account is empty. Every penny is gone. I kept my voice calm, factual. The charges all came from my credit card. The one I let you borrow. Silence stretched between us. I could hear noise in the background, music and conversation. She was somewhere social, somewhere fun, while I sat alone with my catastrophe. Mom, I don't know what you're talking about. I only used it for the electric bill, just like I said. The lie hung in the air between us like poison. I had the bank statement pulled up on my phone. Nordstrom at 1:47 a.m. Sephora at 2:23 a.m. A jewelry website at 3:15 a.m. Jessica, please. Don't lie to me. I have the receipts. I know what you spent the money on. Another pause. When she spoke again, her voice had hardened. Mom, you're being paranoid. Maybe someone stole your information. Maybe it's identity theft. But it wasn't me. She was going to make me prove it. My own daughter was going to force me to lay out the evidence like a prosecutor in court. The charges started at midnight and continued until 4 in the morning. Designer clothes, jewelry, makeup. Thousands and thousands of dollars. While I was sleeping, trusting you. I don't have to listen to this. Her voice turned sharp, angry. I borrowed your card for one bill, Mom. One small bill. If someone else used your information, that's not my fault. The line went dead. She had hung up on me. I sat in the gathering darkness of my apartment, understanding with perfect clarity that this was my new reality. My daughter had stolen my life savings and was going to pretend it never happened. She was going to gaslight me, lie to me, and probably convince the rest of the family that I was the crazy one. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table with every bank statement from the past year spread out in front of me, looking for patterns I had been too trusting to see before. The picture that emerged made me sick to my stomach. This wasn't the first time. It was just the biggest time. Small charges here and there over the past few months. Amounts I might not notice right away. $100 at Target. $50 at a restaurant I'd never been to. A gas station charge in a town I'd never visited. She had been testing me, seeing how much she could take before I caught on. I thought about all the times I had questioned these charges and talked myself out of worrying about them. Jessica must have used my card for groceries and forgotten to mention it. She must have picked up something for me and not gotten around to telling me about it. I had given her the benefit of the doubt again and again, even when doubt was all the evidence I had. The next morning brought a text message that broke what was left of my heart. Mom, I talked to David about what you said. We think you should see a doctor. Memory problems can be a sign of early dementia. We're worried about you. She was trying to make me question my own sanity. She was using my age against me, playing on every fear I had about growing older and losing my independence. The cruelty of it took my breath away. I screenshot the bank statements and texted them to her. Every charge, every timestamp, every merchant name. The evidence was irrefutable. Her response came an hour later. I don't know where you got those, but they're not real. Mom, you're scaring me. Please call Dr. Martinez and make an appointment. She was never going to admit what she had done. She was going to force me to choose between prosecuting my own daughter and accepting the loss of my entire future. She knew I would never send her to jail. She was counting on it. That afternoon, I did something I had never done before. I called my sister Patricia in Florida. Nancy, honey, how are you? Patricia's voice was warm, familiar. We didn't talk often enough, but she had always been there when I really needed her. Tricia, I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen without judging me. I told her everything. The loan that wasn't a loan. The thousands of dollars in charges. Jessica's lies and gaslighting. Patricia listened without interrupting, making soft sounds of sympathy and outrage. Nancy, I have to tell you something, Patricia said when I finished. This doesn't surprise me. My heart sank. What do you mean? Last year at Mom's funeral, Jessica asked me for $500. Said it was for flowers for the service. I gave it to her because I thought it was a nice gesture. But the flowers at the funeral cost maybe $50. I never said anything because I didn't want to cause family drama. The funeral. Our mother's funeral. Jessica had scammed money from her aunt at our mother's funeral. There's more, Patricia continued. She asked cousin Maria for money last Christmas. Told her you were in the hospital and needed help with medical bills. Maria sent $800. When I called to check on you the next week, you were fine. You'd never even been to the hospital. I felt like I was falling down a dark hole with no bottom. How many people had Jessica lied to using my name? How many family members thought I was irresponsible with money or desperate for handouts? Why didn't anyone tell me? Nancy, we didn't want to hurt you. We know how much you love that girl. We thought maybe she was just going through a rough patch and would figure it out eventually. A rough patch. That's what we call it when someone we love reveals themselves to be someone we don't recognize at all. After I hung up with Patricia, I sat in my chair and tried to process 25 years of memories through this new lens. Had Jessica ever really needed me for anything other than money? When was the last time she had called just to check on me, just to say she loved me? I couldn't remember. Every conversation we'd had in recent years started the same way. Small talk for a few minutes, then, Mom, I hate to ask, but some emergency. Some unexpected expense. Some reason she needed just a little help to get through until things got better. Things never got better. They just got more expensive. I walked to my bedroom and pulled out the photo albums I kept in my closet. Pictures of Jessica as a baby, as a toddler, as a young girl. Her smile in those early photos was genuine, joyful. She looked at me with such love and trust. When had that changed? When had I become someone to be used instead of someone to be loved? The phone rang, interrupting my sad archaeology. Jessica's name appeared on the screen again. Mom, I've been thinking about what you said yesterday. My heart lifted despite everything. Maybe she was ready to tell the truth. Maybe we could still fix this. I think someone might have cloned your card or something. Identity theft is really common now. You should call the bank and tell them it was fraud. Still lying. Still trying to convince me that my own eyes and brain couldn't be trusted. Jessica, please. Just tell me the truth. If you needed money, why didn't you just ask me directly? You know I would have helped you. Mom, I'm telling you the truth. I didn't take your money. Then who did? I don't know. Maybe someone at the bank. Maybe someone who works at the places you shop. Maybe someone got hold of your information online. She had an answer for everything. A lie for every fact. An excuse for every piece of evidence. The charges happened in the middle of the night, Jessica. Between midnight and 4 a.m. Someone sat up all night shopping online with my card. Someone who knew all my information, someone who wasn't worried about getting caught. Well, it wasn't me. Where were you that night? What night? Tuesday night. The night my card was used. I was home sleeping. Like normal people do. But I heard something in her voice. A hesitation. A calculation. Can David verify that? Mom, this is ridiculous. You're interrogating me like I'm a criminal. I'm asking you to account for your whereabouts while my life savings disappeared. The line went quiet for so long I thought she had hung up again. David was working late, she finally said. He didn't get home until after midnight, so she was alone. Awake. And conveniently without an alibi. Jessica, I found charges going back months. Small amounts. You've been taking money from me for a long time. That's impossible. It's not impossible. I have the records. Then the records are wrong. The bank records are wrong? All of them? Maybe your account got hacked. Maybe someone's been using your information for months and you just noticed now. She was never going to break. She was going to lie to my face until the day I died, and probably lie at my funeral too. Jessica, I need my card back. Today. What card? The audacity of it stunned me. She was going to pretend she didn't even have my card. The credit card I gave you for the electric bill. I need it back right now. Oh, that card. Yeah, I threw it away after I paid the bill. I cut it up for security, like you taught me. Another lie. More evidence destroyed. More ways to make sure I could never prove what she had done to me. Jessica, I'm going to ask you one more time. Did you take $19,800 from my account? No, Mum. I didn't. And I'm hurt that you would even think I could do something like that. She was hurt. My daughter, who had stolen my future, was hurt by my suspicion. If you didn't take the money, then you won't mind if I file a police report for identity theft. Silence. Finally, silence. Mom, let's not involve the police. These things can get messy. Maybe we should just let the bank handle it. Why would you care if I call the police if you didn't do anything wrong? I just think it's unnecessary. Family business should stay in the family. Family business. She was calling her theft of my life savings family business. This stopped being family business when you stole from me, Jessica. I didn't steal anything. But her voice cracked when she said it. For the first time in 2 days, she sounded uncertain. I'm calling the police tomorrow morning, I said. If you want to explain yourself before that happens, now is your chance. I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking, but not from fear or sadness anymore. I was angry. I was furious. I was done being lied to by someone I had loved unconditionally for 34 years. The police officer who took my statement was younger than Jessica, professional but clearly uncomfortable with the family drama aspect of the case. Mrs. Chen, I have to tell you, these cases are very difficult to prosecute when the victim willingly gave the card to the defendant. The bank is probably going to say you authorized the use. I authorized her to pay one electric bill, not to go on a $20,000 shopping spree. I understand that, ma'am. But unless she admits to exceeding your permission, it's going to be your word against hers. She'll never admit anything. She's been lying to me for days. The officer nodded sympathetically. Would you like to pursue charges anyway? I thought about Jessica in handcuffs. I thought about her children learning that their mother was arrested for stealing from their grandmother. I thought about the shame and the gossip and the way this would destroy what was left of our family. Then I thought about my empty bank account. My uncertain future. The years of lies I had been too loving to see. Yes, I said. I want to pursue charges. The officer filled out the report while I sat in the hard plastic chair in the police station, wondering how my life had come to this. Under the fluorescent lights, surrounded by the sounds of ringing phones and serious conversations about serious crimes, I felt very old and very alone. But I also felt something else. Something I hadn't felt in years. I felt like I mattered. For the first time in decades, I was standing up for myself. I was saying that my trust meant something, that my money wasn't just a resource for other people to exploit, that lying to me had consequences. The officer handed me a copy of the report. We'll be in touch, Mrs. Chen. This will take some time to investigate. I thanked him and walked out into the bright afternoon sunshine. The world looked different somehow. Sharper. More real. I had spent so many years seeing everything through the lens of what Jessica needed, what would make her happy, what would keep peace in the family. Now I was seeing through my own eyes again. My phone rang as I walked to my car. David's name appeared on the screen. Mom, Nancy? His voice was strained, formal. He never called me unless Jessica made him. Hello, David. Mom, I heard about this misunderstanding with the bank account. Jessica is really upset. Misunderstanding. Not theft. Not lies. A misunderstanding. What exactly did Jessica tell you, David? She said someone stole your identity and you're blaming her for it. She's really hurt, Mom. She would never steal from you. Did she show you the charges, David? Did she show you what the money was spent on? A pause. She said it was stuff for the house. $20,000 worth of stuff for the house? In one night? Look, Mom, maybe you guys could work this out without involving the police. Jessica's really scared. She was scared. Good. She should be scared. David, did Jessica tell you she asked Cousin Maria for money last year? Did she tell you she lied about me being in the hospital? Another pause, longer this time. I don't know anything about that. Did she tell you about the money she took from Aunt Patricia at my mother's funeral? Mom, I don't want to get in the middle of family stuff. You're already in the middle of it, David. Your wife stole $20,000 from me, and now you're calling to help her cover it up. That's not what I'm doing. Then what are you doing? David sighed heavily. Look, Mom, Jessica made some mistakes. Maybe she used your card for more than she should have. But she's family. Can't you guys figure this out together? Finally. Finally someone was admitting that something had actually happened. What mistakes, David? What exactly did she do? I don't think I should get into specifics. David, I filed a police report today. The specifics are going to come out whether you tell me or not. Another long pause. She's been under a lot of stress lately. Money's been tight since I got my hours cut at work. She saw your card and thought maybe she could borrow a little extra and pay it back before you noticed. A little extra. $20,000 was a little extra. How much did she think she could borrow without me noticing, David? I don't know. Maybe a few $100s. She spent $20,000. I know. It got out of hand. Got out of hand. Like she tripped and fell into a shopping spree. Where is the stuff she bought, David? What stuff? The $20,000 worth of stuff. Where is it? Some of it she returned. How much? I don't know exactly. David, I need you to be honest with me. How long has Jessica been taking money from my account? The longest pause yet. I could almost hear him calculating how much truth he could get away with. There might have been a few other times. Small amounts. She was always planning to pay it back. A few other times. Small amounts. Plans to pay it back. How many times, David? And don't say you don't know. You just admitted you knew about it. Maybe 4 or 5 times over the past year. How much each time? A few $100. Maybe 1,000 once or twice. I did quick math in my head. Even by David's conservative estimates, Jessica had stolen at least $5,000 from me over the past year. Probably much more. David, why didn't you stop her? I tried. We argued about it. But she said you wouldn't mind, you said you wanted to help us whenever we needed it. I had said that. Years ago, when I was trying to be a supportive mother-in-law, I had told them to let me know if they ever needed help. I meant occasional help. Emergency help. Help with dignity and honesty and gratitude. I didn't mean help yourself to my bank account whenever you feel like it. David, there's a difference between asking for help and stealing. I know. You're right. I should have stopped her. Is she going to pay the money back? Mom, we don't have $20,000. If we had $20,000, she wouldn't have needed to borrow it in the first place. Borrow. He was still calling it borrowing. What about the things she bought? Can she return them? Some of them, maybe. But not all of them. Why not? Some of them were gifts. Gifts. She had stolen my retirement savings to buy gifts for other people. What kind of gifts? Christmas presents. Birthday presents. Some jewelry for her sister's wedding. She had been the generous one at parties and celebrations, handing out expensive gifts and basking in everyone's gratitude. All paid for with my money. All making her look good while I sat at home rationing my grocery budget. David, I need you to understand something. I'm 73 years old. I live on Social Security and a small pension. That $20,000 was everything I had saved for emergencies. If I get sick, if I need help, if something happens to my apartment, I have nothing now. Mom, we'll figure something out. How? You just said you don't have the money to pay me back. Maybe we could set up a payment plan. Pay you back a little bit each month. How much each month? I don't know. Whatever we can afford. David, at $100 a month, it would take you 17 years to pay me back. I'll probably be dead by then. The harsh reality of it hung between us. My daughter had stolen my future, and there was no realistic way for her to give it back. Mom, I'm really sorry this happened. I know Jessica is sorry too. Is she? Because she hasn't apologized to me. She's been lying to me for 3 days straight. She's scared, Mom. She knows she messed up. If she knows she messed up, why won't she admit it? She's afraid you'll never forgive her. The irony was stunning. She was afraid I wouldn't forgive her, so instead of apologizing and asking for forgiveness, she was lying and gaslighting me. She was making forgiveness impossible by refusing to admit she had done anything that needed forgiving. David, put Jessica on the phone. She's not here right now. Where is she? She went to her sister's house. She needed some space to think. Space to think. While I sat alone with my empty bank account and my broken trust. Have her call me tonight. If she wants to fix this, she needs to start by telling me the truth. I'll tell her. But I knew she wouldn't call. She would hide at her sister's house until she figured out a new lie or a new way to blame me for what she had done. That evening, I sat in my living room with all the family photos spread out on the coffee table. Pictures from Jessica's childhood, her wedding, family vacations, holidays. I was looking for clues I had missed, signs that the woman who could steal from her own mother had always been there under the surface. In one photo from her 16th birthday, I caught something I had never noticed before. While I was focused on the camera, smiling proudly, Jessica was looking at something else. Her expression was calculating, evaluating. Even at 16, she was already seeing the world in terms of what she could get from it. Or maybe I was just projecting. Maybe I was trying so hard to understand how this had happened that I was seeing signs that had never really been there. My neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, knocked on my door around 8 o'clock. Nancy, honey, are you okay? I heard you crying through the wall last night. I invited her in for coffee and found myself telling her everything. The theft, the lies, the police report. Mrs. Rodriguez listened with growing outrage. That girl should be ashamed of herself. After everything you did for her. I keep wondering if I did something wrong. If I spoiled her too much, made her think my money was her money. Nancy, you were a good mother. You gave that girl love and opportunities. What she did with them isn't your responsibility. Mrs. Rodriguez stayed for 2 hours, just talking and listening. It occurred to me that I had more honest conversation with my neighbor in one evening than I'd had with my daughter in years. The next morning brought a text from Jessica. Mom, can we please talk? I'm ready to explain everything. My heart jumped. Maybe David had gotten through to her. Maybe she was finally ready to tell the truth and try to make things right. I called her immediately. Mom, I want you to know how sorry I am about this whole situation. Situation. Not theft. Not betrayal. This whole situation. Thank you, Jessica. I've been waiting to hear that. I should have been more careful with your information. I should have made sure your card was secure. She was still doing it. Still pretending that someone else had stolen my money. Jessica, stop. David already told me the truth. He told me you took the money. He told me it wasn't the first time. Stop lying to me. A long pause. I could almost hear her recalculating her strategy. Okay, Mom. You're right. I did use your card for more than just the electric bill. Finally. Finally an admission. How much more? A few extra things. I was going to pay you back before you noticed. Jessica, you spent $20,000. In one night. That's not a few extra things. I know it looks bad. It doesn't just look bad. It is bad. You stole from me. I didn't steal. I borrowed. There's a difference. You borrowed without asking permission. You borrowed more than I could afford to lend. You borrowed with no realistic plan to pay it back. That's called stealing. Mom, please don't be so dramatic. We'll figure out a way to pay you back. Dramatic. I was being dramatic about the theft of my life savings. Jessica, I filed a police report yesterday. Silence. Complete silence. You did what? I filed charges against you for credit card fraud and theft. Mom, you can't be serious. I'm completely serious. But I'm your daughter. Yes, you are. And you stole from me anyway. I can't believe you would do this to me. To your own family. She was angry at me now. The victim was angry at me for reporting the crime. Jessica, I didn't do anything to you. You did this to yourself. Mom, if I get convicted of this, I could go to jail. I could lose my job. David could lose his job. The kids could be taken away. Now she was thinking about consequences. Not when she was stealing from me, but when she might have to face the results of her choices. You should have thought about that before you took my money. Mom, please. I'm begging you. Drop the charges. I'll pay you back, I promise. How? David told me you don't have the money. We'll figure something out. We'll get a second mortgage. We'll borrow from David's parents. You'll borrow money from his parents to pay back the money you stole from me? If that's what it takes. Jessica, why didn't you just ask me for help in the first place? If you needed money, why didn't you come to me honestly? Another pause. This time, when she spoke, her voice sounded different. Smaller. More like the daughter I used to know. Because I knew you'd say no. What do you mean? You've been saying no a lot lately. Every time I ask for help, you want to know what it's for and how much and when I'll pay it back. It used to be easier. It used to be easier. When I was too trusting to ask questions. When I handed over money without wondering if I was being taken advantage of. Jessica, I started asking questions because you were asking for help more and more often. And you weren't paying me back like you promised. I always paid you back. No, you didn't. I looked through my records. You've borrowed over $8,000 from me in the past 2 years, and you've paid back maybe $1,500. I paid back more than that. Show me. Show me records of you paying me back. I don't keep records like that. Well, I do. And according to my records, you owe me money from 3 Christmases ago. Mom, I can't keep track of every little amount. Every little amount. $3,000 for Christmas presents was every little amount. Jessica, I think we need to hang up now. I'm too angry to have this conversation. Mom, wait. Please. Can we meet somewhere and talk about this in person? I don't think that's a good idea right now. Please, Mom. I need to see you. I need to make you understand. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her for coffee the next morning. Maybe seeing her face to face would help me understand how we had gotten to this point. Maybe she would be more honest if we weren't hiding behind phone calls. The coffee shop was neutral territory, a small place near the subway station where we used to meet sometimes when she worked in Manhattan. I arrived early and chose a table by the window, watching the morning commuters rush past with their purpose and their plans. Jessica arrived 15 minutes late, looking perfectly put together as always. Her hair, her makeup, her clothes, everything was expensive and carefully chosen. I wondered how much of it had been paid for with my money. She slid into the seat across from me and immediately started crying. Mom, I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen. The tears looked real. They probably were real. But I had learned the difference between being sorry you did something and being sorry you got caught. What exactly are you sorry for, Jessica? I'm sorry I used your card without asking. I'm sorry I spent more than I should have. I'm sorry I lied to you about it. It was a start. Not the whole truth, but at least an admission that she had done something wrong. Why did you do it? Jessica wiped her eyes with a tissue from her designer purse. Things have been really hard lately. David's hours got cut, and the bills just keep piling up. I saw your card and thought maybe I could just borrow a little bit to get us through the month. You borrowed enough to get through the next 5 years. I know. Once I started shopping, I just couldn't stop. It felt so good to be able to buy things without worrying about money. I kept telling myself I'd return most of it. Did you return any of it? Some? Maybe $3,000 worth. So she still had $17,000 worth of stolen goods. Where is the rest? Some of it was gifts that I can't return. Some of it I already wore or used. Some of it, I don't know where it is. She didn't know where $17,000 worth of merchandise was. Jessica, I need you to understand something. That money wasn't just money to me. It was my security. It was everything I had saved for my future. I know, Mom. I feel terrible about it. Do you? Because you've been lying to me for days. If you felt so terrible, why didn't you just tell me the truth from the beginning? I was scared. I knew you'd be angry. I am angry. But I'm angrier about the lies than I am about the money. That wasn't entirely true. I was furious about the money. But the lies had broken something in me that money couldn't fix. Mom, what can I do to make this right? You can start by telling me the complete truth. All of it. How long have you been taking money from me? How much in total? What did you spend it on? Jessica looked down at her hands, the perfect manicure that I had probably paid for without knowing it. It started about 2 years ago. Just small amounts at first. I would use your card for groceries when I was shopping for you, and maybe pick up a few extra things for us. How much? Maybe $50 or $100 at a time. How often? Once a month, maybe. Jessica, be honest with me. I know it was more than that. She sighed, looking trapped. Okay, maybe twice a month. Maybe more during the holidays. How much money have you taken from me in total over the past 2 years? I don't know exactly. Guess. Maybe $10,000? Maybe? You maybe stole $10,000 from me. It wasn't stealing, Mom. I always planned to pay you back. But you never did pay me back. So your plans don't really matter, do they? Jessica started crying again. Mom, I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But I'm still your daughter. We're still family. Are we? Because family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't lie to each other the way you've been lying to me. I only lied because I was afraid of losing you. You were going to lose me anyway when I figured out what you were doing. The only difference is that now I can never trust you again. Please don't say that. Jessica, if you needed money, why didn't you ask me directly? You know I would have helped you if I could. Would you? Because every time I ask for anything lately, you act like I'm trying to take advantage of you. Maybe because you were trying to take advantage of me. That's not fair. What's not fair is stealing from your mother and then making her feel guilty about reporting it. Jessica leaned back in her chair, the tears drying up quickly. So what happens now? Are you really going to let them arrest me? I don't know. Mom, please. Think about the kids. Think about what this would do to them. The kids. Now she was using her children as emotional blackmail. Jessica, you should have thought about your children before you committed a felony. It wasn't a felony. It was a mistake. $20,000 worth of theft is a felony. You gave me the card. Technically, I had permission to use it. For one electric bill. Not for a shopping spree. But you gave it to me. That has to count for something. She was still trying to find a loophole, still trying to make this my fault somehow. Jessica, I need you to do 2 things for me. Anything, Mom. What do you need? First, I need you to make a list of everything you bought with my money. Everything. And I need you to return everything that can be returned. Okay. I can do that. Second, I need you to come with me to the bank and explain to them exactly what you did. I need you to admit that you took more money than I authorized. Jessica's face changed. Mom, I can't do that. If I admit to the bank that I stole from you, they'll press charges too. They might press charges anyway when they investigate. But if I don't admit anything, maybe they won't be able to prove it. There it was. She was still planning to lie her way out of this. She was willing to let me be accused of making false claims rather than face the consequences of what she had done. Jessica, if you're not willing to tell the truth, then there's nothing left for us to talk about. I stood up to leave. Mom, wait. Please. Don't go. I can't sit here and listen to you plan new lies. I can't pretend that we're going to fix this if you won't even admit what you broke. I did admit it. I told you I took the money. You told me part of the truth. You're still lying about how much, how often, and how long it's been going on. Mom, if I tell you everything, will you drop the charges? I don't know. But I know that if you don't tell me everything, I definitely won't drop them. Jessica sat quietly for several minutes, thinking. I could see her calculating, weighing her options. Okay, she said finally. I'll tell you everything. But not here. Can we go somewhere more private? We drove to my apartment in silence. Jessica had never been comfortable in my small, modest home. She always seemed to be judging it, comparing it to her own house in the suburbs. Today, she looked around with what might have been guilt. I made tea while she sat at my kitchen table, the same table where I had discovered the theft 3 days earlier. The morning light streaming through my old windows made everything look harsh and unforgiving. Start from the beginning, I said, sitting down across from her. Jessica took a deep breath. The first time was about 3 years ago, not 2. You had given me your card to pick up groceries for you when you had that bad cold. I bought your groceries, and then I bought about $200 worth of stuff for us. What kind of stuff? Food mostly. Some clothes for the kids. I told myself it was okay because you were always saying you wanted to help with the grandchildren. How did it escalate from there? It was just so easy. You never checked your statements carefully. You trusted me. And we really were struggling financially. How often were you using my card? Maybe once a week at first. Then more often. It became like a habit. How much were you taking each time? It varied. Sometimes $50. Sometimes $500. During Christmas and birthdays, more. I was doing math in my head, and the numbers were staggering. Jessica, how much money have you stolen from me in total? She looked down at her hands. Maybe $40,000. $40,000. Over 3 years, my daughter had stolen $40,000 from me. Maybe, I repeated. I think it was more like $50,000. $50,000. My entire life savings, stolen gradually by someone I trusted completely. Where did all that money go? Living expenses mostly. Mortgage payments. Car payments. Credit card bills. What about the designer clothes? The jewelry? The expensive gifts? That was just recently. When David's hours got cut, I started buying nicer things for myself. I felt so guilty about our financial problems, and shopping made me feel better. You felt better by stealing from your mother? I didn't think of it as stealing. I thought of it as borrowing from our family money. What family money? That was my money. Money I saved from my salary, from my pension. But you're my mom. I figured it would all be mine someday anyway. The casual cruelty of that statement took my breath away. She had been spending my inheritance while I was still alive to need it. Jessica, I could live for another 20 years. That money was supposed to support me, not subsidize your lifestyle. I know. I wasn't thinking clearly. For 3 years you weren't thinking clearly? Jessica started crying again, but I was beyond being moved by her tears. Mom, what do you want me to do? I can't undo what I did. I want you to face the consequences. I want you to understand that actions have results. What consequences? I already feel terrible about it. Feeling terrible isn't a consequence. It's just an emotion. So you want me to go to jail? You want your daughter in prison? I want my daughter to take responsibility for what she's done. I am taking responsibility. I told you the truth. You told me the truth after lying to me for days. You told me the truth only because you got caught. But I did tell you the truth. Doesn't that count for something? It counts for something. But it doesn't erase what you did. We sat in silence for several minutes. Jessica kept looking around my apartment like she was seeing it for the first time. Mom, how do you live like this? What do you mean? This apartment is so small. So old. Don't you want something nicer? I almost laughed. Jessica, I could have afforded something nicer if I hadn't been unknowingly supporting 2 households for the past 3 years. She looked genuinely surprised, as if the connection between her theft and my modest lifestyle had never occurred to her. I didn't realize the money was coming from your living expenses. Where did you think it was coming from? I thought you had savings. I thought you were comfortable. I did have savings. Now I don't. Because you spent them. Mom, I'm really, truly sorry. I know sorry doesn't fix anything, but I need you to know that I never meant to hurt you. Jessica, intent doesn't matter as much as impact. You may not have meant to hurt me, but you did hurt me. Deeply. What can I do to make this better? I don't know if you can make it better. The money is gone. The trust is broken. The relationship is damaged. But we can fix our relationship, right? We can work through this. I looked at my daughter sitting across from me, beautiful, selfish, desperate, and tried to see a path forward. I don't know, Jessica. I really don't know. That conversation was a week ago. Since then, Jessica has returned about $4,000 worth of merchandise. She's created payment plans to send me $100 a month, which means she'll be paying me back for the next 40 years. The police investigation is ongoing. The bank has flagged all the fraudulent transactions, but since I initially gave her the card willingly, the case is complicated. My lawyer says it could take months to resolve. David called to tell me that they've had to put their house up for sale. Jessica's sister refuses to talk to me, convinced that I'm the villain in this story. My grandchildren don't understand why grandma is being mean to mommy. But something unexpected has happened in the midst of all this chaos and heartbreak. I've started to find my voice again. Yesterday, when Jessica called crying about how the stress was affecting her health, I didn't automatically comfort her and tell her everything would be okay. Instead, I said, "Jessica, you created this stress by stealing from me. The solution is to face the consequences and learn from them." When David called to ask if I could help with their mortgage payments while they try to sell the house, I said no. Just no. Without apologies or explanations or guilt. When my sister Patricia suggested that maybe I should consider dropping the charges for the sake of family unity, I told her that Jessica's choices had fractured the family, not mine. For the first time in decades, I'm putting my own needs first. I'm protecting my own interests. I'm refusing to be responsible for everyone else's emotions and problems. It's terrifying and liberating at the same time. Mrs. Rodriguez was right. I was a good mother. I gave Jessica everything I could: love, support, opportunities, financial help, endless second chances. What she did with those gifts isn't my responsibility. I've started seeing a therapist. At 73, I'm learning about boundaries and self-respect and the difference between helping someone and enabling them. I'm learning that love doesn't require you to accept abuse. I've also started volunteering at a local senior center, helping other older adults navigate financial scams and family exploitation. It turns out that my story isn't unique. There are dozens of U.S. parents and grandparents who've been taken advantage of by the people we love most. We meet once a week in the community room, sharing our experiences and supporting each other. There's Maria, whose son stole her Social Security checks. There's Frank, whose daughter-in-law emptied his retirement account. There's Helen, whose grandson used her credit cards to fund his gambling addiction. At first, I was embarrassed to be part of this group. It felt like admitting failure as a parent. But now I understand that we're not failed parents. We're survivors. We're people who loved so deeply that we made ourselves vulnerable, and that vulnerability was exploited by people who should have protected us. The hardest part isn't the money, though losing $50,000 at my age is devastating. The hardest part is grieving the daughter I thought I had. I'm mourning the relationship I thought we shared, the person I believed Jessica to be. But I'm also discovering who I am when I'm not constantly worried about Jessica's needs and feelings and reactions. I'm rediscovering interests and friendships I had neglected while I was busy being her emergency contact and financial backup plan. I've started taking art classes at the community college. I'm learning to paint watercolors, something I always wanted to try but never had time for. My first painting was terrible, a lopsided flower that looked more like a blob of purple and green. But it was mine. I created it, and nobody could take it away from me or sell it or lie about how they got it. 3 weeks ago, Jessica called to tell me she was pregnant again. For a moment, my heart leaped with joy, and I started to say congratulations. Then I caught myself. "Jessica, why are you telling me this?" "Because you're going to be a grandmother again. I thought you'd be excited." "I am happy that you're having a baby. But I need to know why you're sharing this news with me." "What do you mean why?" "You're my mother. Jessica, we're in the middle of a legal dispute. You've stolen $50,000 from me and refused to take full responsibility for it. Our relationship is severely damaged. So I need to know, are you telling me about this pregnancy because you want to share your joy with me, or because you're hoping it will make me drop the charges?" A long pause. "Mom, that's a terrible thing to say. Is it terrible because it's wrong, or because it's accurate? You're my mother. Of course I want to share important news with you. Jessica, I hope you understand that this pregnancy doesn't change anything about our legal situation. Having a baby doesn't erase the fact that you committed a crime. I know that. I'm not trying to manipulate you." But her voice said otherwise. "Good," I said. "Then you'll understand why I can't offer any financial help with baby expenses." "I didn't ask for financial help." "You didn't ask yet. But you would have." And I wanted to be clear that my answer would be no. "Mom, this is your grandchild we're talking about." "Yes, it is. And I hope you'll raise this child with more honesty and integrity than you've shown me." Jessica hung up on me. She called back an hour later, crying and apologizing and asking if we could start over. I told her we couldn't start over, but we might be able to move forward if she was willing to be completely honest going forward. She hasn't called since. The pain of that absence is real and sharp. I miss her. I miss the relationship we used to have, even though I now understand that much of it was based on lies and manipulation. I miss feeling like I had a close family. I miss the grandchildren, who are innocent victims of their mother's choices. But I don't miss the constant anxiety about money. I don't miss wondering if every phone call would be a request for help. I don't miss the feeling that my only value to my daughter was in my bank account. For the first time in years, I'm living within my means and sleeping through the night. My lawyer says the criminal case could result in Jessica pleading guilty to a misdemeanor charge, which would mean probation and restitution payments. The civil case, my attempt to recover the money, could take years to resolve. I've accepted that I'll probably never get most of my money back. But I've also realized that the money was never really the point. The point was that someone I loved and trusted had betrayed that love and trust repeatedly, and I had the right to protect myself from that betrayal. I think about the woman I was 6 months ago, constantly worried about Jessica's problems, constantly available to solve her crises, constantly giving more than I could afford to give. That woman was kind and generous and loving. She was also being systematically exploited by her own child. The woman I am now is still kind and generous and loving. But she's also self-protective and boundaried and unwilling to accept lies and manipulation as the price of family relationships. Some people in my life think I've become hard and unforgiving. They think I should forgive Jessica and move on, that family is more important than money. But forgiveness doesn't require you to make yourself vulnerable to the same harm again. Moving on doesn't mean pretending that serious boundary violations never happened. And family relationships that require you to accept abuse aren't really relationships at all, they're transactions disguised as love. I'm learning the difference. At the senior center last week, a new member joined our support group. She was 81 years old and crying because her grandson had convinced her to co-sign for a car loan, then stopped making payments. Her credit was ruined, and she was facing monthly payments she couldn't afford. "I don't understand how he could do this to me," she kept saying. "I raised him when his parents were going through their divorce. I gave him everything." I recognized the bewilderment in her voice, the desperate need to make sense of senseless betrayal. "He did it because he could," I told her gently. "Because you loved him enough to trust him, and he was willing to take advantage of that trust. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong. It means he made a choice to prioritize his wants over your well-being." She looked at me with surprise, as if no one had ever suggested that the problem might be with his choices rather than her naivety. "But he's family," she said. Yes, I agreed. And family members should treat each other better than strangers, not worse. That's the lesson I wish I had learned earlier. That's the wisdom I wish I could give to my younger self, the woman who confused unconditional love with unconditional availability for exploitation. Jessica hasn't tried to contact me in 2 weeks. I don't know if she's given birth yet. I don't know if she's found a way to manage financially without stealing from anyone. I don't know if she's learning to take responsibility for her choices. What I do know is that I'm okay with not knowing. For the first time in my adult life, Jessica's problems are not my emergency. Her choices are not my responsibility. Her well-being is not more important than my own. It's a strange kind of freedom, this absence of constant worry about someone else's life. I wake up in the morning and think about my own day, my own plans, my own needs. I go to sleep at night without wondering if my phone will ring with the latest crisis that requires my immediate financial or emotional attention. I have friends now, real friends who enjoy my company for its own sake, not because I can solve their problems or lend them money. I have interests and hobbies that belong entirely to me. I have boundaries that protect my peace and my resources. I also have grief. Not just for the money, though that loss is significant, but grief for the daughter I thought I knew, for the relationship I believed we had, for the future I had imagined we would share. The grief comes in waves, when I see mothers and daughters shopping together, when I pass a playground where I used to take my grandchildren, when I find old photos tucked in books or drawers. It's a complicated grief because I'm mourning someone who is still alive, mourning a relationship that still exists but has been fundamentally changed. Some days the grief feels overwhelming. Other days it feels like a gentle sadness, acknowledgement of something lost but acceptance that the loss was necessary for something else to be found. What I found was myself. Not the self I was before Jessica was born. I can never go back to being that young woman with her whole life ahead of her. But a new self, shaped by experience and loss and hard-won wisdom about the difference between love and enabling. This new self is more careful with her trust but not cynical. More protective of her resources but not selfish. More assertive about her needs but not unkind. This new self can sit in her small apartment on a Saturday morning, drinking coffee and reading the newspaper, feeling perfectly content with her own company. She doesn't need constant reassurance that she's needed and valued. She knows her own worth, and it has nothing to do with how much she gives to other people. The legal proceedings are scheduled to conclude next month. I don't know what the outcome will be, but I've already achieved what I really wanted, the acknowledgement that what happened to me was wrong, that I had the right to protect myself, that I deserved better treatment from someone I loved. If Jessica ever truly takes responsibility for what she did, not just admits to it, but understands why it was harmful and changes her behavior, then maybe we can rebuild some kind of relationship. But it would be a different kind of relationship, one with clear boundaries and realistic expectations. And if she doesn't take responsibility, if she continues to minimize and manipulate and blame others for her choices, then I'm prepared to live without her in my life. It would be sad, but it wouldn't be tragic. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is distance yourself from people who consistently harm you, even if those people are family. Especially if those people are family. The art class I've been taking is ending next week, but I've signed up for the advanced class that starts in January. My paintings have improved dramatically. Last week, I finished a landscape that actually looks like the park where I painted it. Small victories, but they add up to a sense of accomplishment and growth that I haven't felt in years. Mrs. Rodriguez and I have become close friends. We have dinner together twice a week and have started taking walks in Flushing Meadows Park on Sunday afternoons. She's teaching me to make her grandmother's tamale recipe, and I'm teaching her some of the watercolor techniques I've learned. It's a peaceful kind of friendship, built on mutual respect and genuine affection rather than need and obligation. We enjoy each other's company, but neither of us depends on the other for survival or validation. It's what I thought I had with Jessica, but now I understand the difference between healthy interdependence and unhealthy exploitation of someone's love. Last week, I got a check in the mail from Jessica, $127.50, her first installment toward paying back what she stole. She included a note: "Mom, I know this doesn't fix anything, but I want you to know I'm trying to do the right thing." I deposited the check and filed the note away with all the other legal documents related to this case. It was a start, but it was only a start. Real change would require sustained effort over years, not just good intentions and small gestures when convenient. I've learned not to confuse the promise of change with actual change. I've learned not to accept apologies as evidence of transformation. I've learned that people show you who they are through their actions over time, not through their words in moments of crisis. These are hard lessons that I wish I had learned earlier, but I'm grateful to have learned them at all. They've given me tools to protect myself in future relationships. They've given me wisdom to share with other people facing similar situations. Most importantly, they've given me permission to value myself as much as I value others. The woman who woke up 6 months ago to find her bank account emptied by her own daughter was devastated, confused, and willing to accept almost any explanation that would preserve her image of her family. That woman was loving but naive, generous but unprotected. The woman I am today is still loving and generous, but she's also wise and self-protecting. She knows the difference between helping someone and enabling someone. She knows that real love sometimes requires saying no. She knows that boundaries aren't walls, they're gates that you can open for people who respect what lies beyond them. I think about that morning when I discovered the theft, sitting at my kitchen table, staring at my phone screen in disbelief, feeling like my world was collapsing. At the time, it felt like the worst thing that could happen to me. Now I understand that it was actually a gift. A painful, expensive gift, but a gift nonetheless. It showed me the truth about my situation before I wasted any more years or money on a relationship that was fundamentally exploitative. It forced me to develop strength and boundaries I should have had all along. The theft was Jessica's choice and Jessica's crime. But what I did with the knowledge of that theft, how I responded, what I learned, who I became as a result, that was my choice. And I'm proud of the choices I made. I chose truth over comfortable illusions. I chose self-protection over enabling. I chose growth over staying stuck in patterns that no longer served me. I chose myself. That might sound selfish to people who believe that parents should sacrifice endlessly for their children regardless of how those children treat them. But I've learned that teaching someone that their behavior has consequences is actually more loving than protecting them from those consequences. By holding Jessica accountable for her choices, I gave her the opportunity to learn and grow. By refusing to continue enabling her, I removed the obstacles to her developing real integrity and responsibility. Whether she takes advantage of that opportunity is up to her. But at least I know I offered it. The sunset is particularly beautiful tonight, casting golden light across my small apartment. I'm sitting by the window with a cup of tea, watching the city settle into evening. My watercolor supplies are spread across the kitchen table where I've been working on a painting of the view from this very spot. 6 months ago, this apartment felt like a prison of loneliness and financial worry. Tonight, it feels like a sanctuary of peace and possibility. I still miss my daughter sometimes. I still wonder about my grandchildren. I still feel sad about the family dinners and holidays that won't happen anymore. But I don't miss the anxiety. I don't miss the constant sense that my resources were being depleted by someone who didn't appreciate them. I don't miss the feeling that I was valued only for what I could provide rather than who I was. The phone hasn't rung with a crisis in weeks. My bank balance is small but stable. My days are quiet but fulfilling. This is what peace feels like. If you're listening to this and recognizing your own story and mine, if you felt used by someone you love, if you've wondered whether your generosity is being exploited, if you've struggled to set boundaries with family members, I want you to know that you're not alone. You're not crazy. You're not selfish for wanting to be treated with respect and honesty. You deserve relationships that enhance your life rather than drain it. You deserve love that doesn't come with a price tag attached. You deserve to feel safe and valued by the people closest to you. And if those people can't or won't treat you that way, you deserve to protect yourself from further harm. Even if those people are family. Especially if those people are family, because family should be the place where you're safest, not where you're most vulnerable to exploitation. Have you ever experienced something like what I've shared today? Have you ever struggled with setting boundaries with someone you love? Please share your story in the comments below. Sometimes just putting our experiences into words can help us understand them more clearly. And if this story touched something in you, if it helped you feel less alone or gave you permission to value yourself more highly, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. It helps me continue sharing these difficult but important conversations. Because the more we talk about these experiences, the less power they have to isolate us and make us feel ashamed. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for witnessing my journey from exploitation to empowerment. And thank you for reminding me, just by being here, that I have value beyond what I can give to others. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is teach someone that their actions have consequences. Sometimes the most generous thing you can do is stop enabling someone's harmful behavior. Sometimes the most family-oriented thing you can do is insist that family members treat each other with basic respect and honesty. I learned these lessons the hard way, but I learned them. And now I'm passing them on to you, hoping they might save you some of the pain I went through to acquire them. Take care of yourselves. Set your boundaries. Value your peace. And remember, you matter just as much as the people you love.